Welcome to Steward Leaders, a podcast for leaders who understand that our leadership is not about us. I'm Eric Alexander. In these conversations, we explore what it means to lead as stewards, living our leadership for something bigger than ourselves.
Listeners, thanks for joining us today, and hello to you too as well. Jeff Mercer, I'm so glad you've joined us for a Steward Leaders conversation.
Eric, my pleasure to be here. It's great to see you. I know that we've done several things in the past, and it's always fun to reconnect and talk about things that we both are passionate about.
Well, listeners, you're going to enjoy that. Jeff, thanks for that. Yes, we do have shared passions. We intersect a lot. Let me tell the folks about you and about how we got to know each other. So I'm going to read here a little bit out of the bio. Jeff has a Ph.D. in finance from Texas Tech. Down the road from where I'm sitting here in Amarillo. He's about a 2-hour drive from me. And as I read through the bio, there's lots of things finance and banking related and Texas Tech related. That's where he's taught. That's where he's involved with various banking training and educational enterprises. So let me just keep on going. He's the Centennial Bank Chair in Finance, Emeritus. He's the Executive Director for the Texas Tech School of Banking. More about that in a minute. And the Executive Director of the Williams Institute for Community Banking and Finance at Texas Tech. Centennial, I'm familiar with who endowed that chair. Williams, I know who we're talking about there too. It's interesting, banking in Texas is really, for a big state, with a big industry, it's really kind of a small community. And Jeff and I keep bumping into each other at banking events all around the state. He's passionate about training bankers. When I was at Happy, we would regularly send our new leaders, up-and-coming leaders, to the Texas Tech School of Banking. And I was privileged last year. He asked me to come on as faculty and teach a course for the year one students on leadership. I'll be back in about a month teaching them again for their year two and year one with the new batch. So Jeff, just grateful for you. Oh, and he did a very gracious endorsement quote for the book I have coming out soon. So all kinds of intersection points, Jeff. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you as well, Eric. It's fun that we both get to do the Texas Tech School of Banking. Now our new director boot camp, our Community Bank Director Boot Camp program that you're generously going to provide some instruction. It's you're going to kind of anchor those 2 days, my friend. I appreciate that very much. Steward leadership is certainly important, and for directors as well as bankers, but maybe even more so for directors if you think about their responsibilities. But we both are doing various consulting, speaking things around the state. We're both down at Swigsby. Bill Chittenden's running a good shop down there, and we always enjoy helping him, and he'll come up and help us as well for the Texas Tech School of Banking. So it's funny, you mentioned the Williams name, David Williams, and goodness, you can't say Happy State Bank without mentioning Pat Hickman, our good friend, late friend, and all that he did for the school. I don't know if you recall, but he for many years would come in and teach a leadership session for me for the School of Banking. Always one of the favorite speakers. He would get very, very high, ratings, instructor ratings from all the people, and a lot of back slapping and a lot of handshaking and a lot of laughing that came with it. And I was going to share with you, since we're talking about many things and leadership among them, Pat, if you listen to him for the 75 or 90 minutes, whatever he took, you just couldn't help but sit there and smile and think about how much sense this made that he was speaking about. It was nothing fancy. We all know Pat. He was a smart guy. And it was on point, but there was really no rocket science involved. And I always would remember walking away from that and hearing people saying things like, man, it's all about attitude. It's all about attitude. It's about attitude and how you treat people, and you remember their name and you motivate them. And I thought, boy, if you can talk for 90 minutes and have people walk out of the room with those gems, you're onto something.
Right. It's powerful.
It is powerful. And he was a big funny guy, and he remembered names like nobody I've ever met in my life.
He really, really strong at that. Yes, he was. And passionate about leadership, passionate about attitude. I worked with him for 10 years. And so, and then we had grandkids in the same school up here in Amarillo. And so we'd run into each other at other events, and he left a hole when he passed.
The second I first saw an email from you about your book and you revealed the title to me, I couldn't help but think that The Stinking Accountants was out of Pat Hickman's mouth.
That's exactly where it came from. So just to catch the listeners up, the title is Stewardship Leadership for Stinking Accountants, and the subtitle is Serving as the CFO. And Pat, the CEO, I worked with him a long time, and he called me that. And it took me a long time. I regularly tried to get him to admit it was a term of endearment. Never did. It was disparaging, playfully disparaging.
Yes.
So I use it in the title really to catch attention and also to say, not everybody completely understands the finance role, finance leadership role. Sometimes we get picked on. Sometimes we play into the stereotypes. Our role is serious.
Yeah.
Let's take our role and our contribution seriously. We don't have to take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
And the title gets a little bit of buzz.
Well, on that note, congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
I made my way through it and provided a quote to you as you requested. I was happy to do that, and I sure hope it goes well. And the listeners may be interested to know that we, the School of Banking, committed to purchase a copy for the 140 people we'll have here, the bankers. And so I think that it's a lot of lessons in there. I got to thinking a little bit about what we might chat about. We do. So the School of Banking is 80 contact hours. It's all in residence. I just lost my light. It's all in residence, of course, as you know. And I got to sort of calculating the number of hours, and across those 80 hours, 40 hours in year one, 40 hours in year two, we have about 10 plus hours on leadership, principles, rules, things not to do. You cover a lot of that ground, the stewardship part of it, certainly. And I got to thinking that is, maybe even at that number, it's not enough. We understand how important it is, this very difficult, complex task of running a bank, which requires all the finance knowledge and legal knowledge. I mean, financial statement analysis, credit, compliance, technology, human resources, motivation, leadership.
Right.
And then, you wrap that in a position of making really big decisions for a lot of employees, trying to motivate them and reach for that next, few basis points on ROA. It's technical, but it's blocking and tackling 101.
Right.
And I think that's why community bankers are so well respected. Banking leaders are good business people, but they're also, they are stewards. And I think the best among them recognize that, and they're good to their communities. And I think that is what we have to convey to these 20-year-olds and 20-something-year-olds and 30-something-year-olds that attend these various banking schools around the country.
Right.
Swigsby, Texas Tech School of Banking. It's easy to work hard, and it's easy to get good at your job, and it's easy to stay in your hallway or your cubicle or whatever it is. Really, what we need to be conveying to these young people is, if you're going to be a career banker, you're going to be asked to do more and more and more.
Right.
Supervisory responsibilities, making really tough decisions on, I don't care, you pick it, the bond portfolio, the interest rate. You provide a rate sheet to somebody, all of these things. But also, leadership is not just something that you just sort of wake up and crawl out of bed and look in the mirror and say, you know what, I'm going to be a leader today.
Right.
I'm going to lead. Now, you probably aren't going to get there without that attitude, but at the same time, leadership is developed.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
it's listening to, guys with gray hair and their beards and hair, and gals, of course. And I think that's what we really try to do in the banking education programs here at Texas Tech. I'm not selling. I'm just saying I think that's what we're really trying to do. And I think that the better, more promising young bankers that sort of say, I'm going to go to this 80 hours of executive education and I'm going to work hard and pay attention, I think they walk out of here with something in their step. Certainly the finance aspect of it is there. Sort of I didn't know what went on down that hallway, and wasn't sure what was going on down that hallway.
Right.
I don't know what ALCO stood for, but I do now.
Right. Well, when I was a new banker, I came to banking from other industries about 30 years into my career. a banking school was very helpful for me. I was living it every day. I got the finance part pretty quickly, but I knew what ALCO was and I dealt with ALCO. But it was the other things where the banking school really gave me a good broadening. And yes, some of that leadership development. And I love the tagline. I'm not sure where else you use it when you're talking about the banking school, but the idea of building better bankers. Now, of course, in the listening audience here, it's more than just bankers. So the principles here apply beyond, but that whole idea of building better bankers, how do we go about that?
Yeah, so I like to say, because my golf game is not very good, I like to say, don't let excellent be the enemy of good. And so I think in this instance, we're a 2-year school. You come for 40 hours in year 1 and 40 hours in year 2. We do it a Sunday afternoon through Friday afternoon. And I think that the word building was specifically chosen because it means you're going to work. Mm-hmm. And it's undeniably understandable. We understand if you're going to build something, you're going to get some dirt under your fingernails. You have to think through things. And we wanted it to convey a level of rigor. Mm-hmm. But the word better right behind it is a little softer, and people like the word better. It's not outstanding. It's not excellent. It's better. And I think that building better bankers sort of rolls off the tongue. Mm-hmm. And so we really grabbed a hold of that. And in all fairness, IBAT has a similar line that they use in a couple of different things. Right? All good. We love Christopher Wilston and right. IBAT. We're big fans of the organization. Of course.
He's often there for the school too.
Yeah, indeed he is. And so we are brothers in advocacy, if you will, mm-hmm. for community banking. But that building better bankers really is a purposeful statement about us taking, let's say, a 30-year-old. We have people here from they're 26 to 56. But the sweet spot seems to be about people that are 7, 8, or 9 years in banking. Mm-hmm. So they're probably, unless something just goes haywire, they're probably going to be career bankers, and they're probably getting promoted. The most common title, of course, that we have are vice presidents. And so, but many of them come in, and again, I'll sort of characterize it as they're good. They know what they're doing. If they're in, treasury, whatever it happens to be, they can speak the game and teach the game. Mm-hmm. But the leadership development and knowing what goes on with their other coworkers through the bank is critically important. We have a bit of an age gap, a talent gap. In community banking for whatever reason. And so, from our lips to God's ears, let's hope that community banking continues as it is, serving communities. That's right. The key word, of course. Right. But these younger folks, they can't just walk in and be good finance people. Mm-hmm. They have to be good at much more than that.
Yes.
So Swigsby does this, we do this, we try to wrap as much stuff as we can from banking from A to Z, I like to say, in those 80 contact hours. And we bring in really entertaining experts who are good on their feet and been at it a long time like you. They know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited that you and I get to talk a little bit about the leadership aspect of this, because I think that I'm not sure if leadership is a hard skill or a soft skill. Maybe it has some of both. But it's important that they understand they're going to be called upon, unless they just want to stay right where they're at for the next 30 years, which is okay too. But many of them are going to rise to the top, and they're going to be asked to take on complex tasks.
Yes.
Which means you have to lead people that are around you and motivate them for the right reasons, and speak positively to them, and don't call them a stinking accountant, and be really, really positive with a good attitude, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a big part of it.
So that sparks a couple of thoughts, Jeff. One is you mentioned earlier that when Pat would come down and talk about leadership, and by the way, I feel very honored with a gap in time there, to get to follow in his footsteps and be talking to the same kinds of students about a same topic. So much of it is common sense. Now, occasionally there'll be a concept in the leadership world, somebody will bring up ooh, I hadn't thought about it that way. Or here's a way to approach a problem, or here's something to do. But that combination of being strong in our technical area, understanding the environment around me with all the other technical things going on in the bank that I'm not as involved in, but then understanding and being motivated about leadership. And it's a soft skill. That's a hard skill. It's hard. It's just hard to lead well. We can learn from watching people do it well. We can learn from people watching it doing poorly. When I talk, it's often, hey, it's not Eric was brilliant. It's more, I'm old and gray. I noticed you called me that earlier, the gray beards and stuff.
I'm with you in spirit.
So I've seen a lot, and there's a lot of lessons I've learned the hard way. Yeah. So much of it, when you hear it, it's, well, that seems obvious. That seems like common sense, but common sense is not always common practice. And one of the things I've found is really helpful, when you can wrap a mindset around it, it can be transformative. And that's why I talk so much about stewardship. And a bank is a steward. All the deposits on the balance sheet don't belong to the bank. The bank itself is a steward. Any leader inside the bank is stewarding a steward organization. So a stewardship mindset, I'm just convinced is, there's a book out there we ought to read on that. It's a big deal. It's really important.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that you hit on something important when you use the word practice. Practicing leadership is difficult. Mm-hmm. That's where the rubber hits the road, right?
Right.
And so one of the things that I think that we try to do, Tim Tivis does a wonderful job, if you recognize that name. Tim Tivis does a wonderful job for us in talking about team dynamics and team leadership within teams and conflict resolution. We have an expert come in and do conflict resolution. So lots of different elements to leadership, like
Yes.
And so when people return for their year 2 experience, about the last 2 full days and maybe a little bit more, it's primarily breaking into teams. And we use the American Bankers Association bank management software simulation. It's really quite good. It's called Bank Exec. Doesn't matter, but and we put them into teams. So we might put a lender and a treasury person and et cetera in this team of 5 or 6 people. And you talk about an experiment. It's like sometimes, putting 2 volatile chemicals in a jar and shaking it.
Yes.
Other times it just gels.
Right.
But it's very it's very interesting to hear them talk about team dynamics, how the leadership waned and how it moved through the group, because they're spending a lot of time together. There are sometimes significant age differences. Of course, they're both men and women. And so that's another big part of it, is spending a lot of time trying to make very complex, difficult decisions in a simulated environment, and seeing who and how these different, and sometimes it just goes poorly.
Right.
But it
sounds like the workplace. Sometimes it goes poorly in those same kinds of things.
And guess what? We have a reward structure. And so whoops, I keep losing my light here, my motion detector. The top 3 teams receive a beautiful piece of plastic that probably costs us about $20. It's coveted. It's quite coveted.
Right.
And so there is a reward, and we know that this part of leadership is rewarding people for the right things.
Yes.
Or scolding them privately. And so we do have that reward structure. And I guess what I'm trying to convey is, even though it's a school of banking, and we're sitting in this fabulous, beautiful, world-class facility called the Rawls College of Business, that leadership, that experience makes them grow. It helps them grow.
Yes.
It builds them, and we're building better bankers. And so that's just part of the mix. And you're going to be right plopped in the middle of it here in about 4 weeks.
Well, so 2 comments on that. I don't know if you point out to them what's happening with that. I've in my own bank school experience, a different school back when I was getting introduced to banking, did the simulation there as well and experienced the same kind of dynamic. Of course, the simulation is really helpful for pretending like you're running a bank and watching how these decisions play out in a simulated environment with different outcomes. What they probably aren't realizing, they're probably focusing initially going into it on, like I did, how do we boost our earnings and protect our liquidity? How do we do all those things that the CFO's got to be really good at? And not realize or not pay attention to. And you're here in a little petri dish of different personalities, like you described, with those own challenges, and you're getting a little opportunity here to practice some of that stuff. Yeah. It's really hard. So I have an idea. I don't remember exactly how the timing of the curriculum works up. If the conflict resolution is later in the week than I'm teaching my class, I may see if I can stir some stuff up in my class to provide you some material to y'all go clean up some relationships. I'd be happy to do that.
You want to create some conflict that we can later resolve?
Yes, exactly. Speaking of practice,
we're all about verbs at this school, so you do what you can.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting concept. So we do speak to them again purposefully about what the experience, about how the experience can go. The experience can go very, very smoothly, and you're focusing on ROA, whatever it happens to be. But at the same time, we basically say kicking up dust and learning by making mistakes can be a good thing. Mm-hmm. And so if you are very opinionated and you think that you're smarter than the guys and gals around the table, see how that goes. How do you approach that? How are you going to sell them on you? Are you going to be a bull in a china shop, right? Or are you going to be a leader? And are you going to convince them and motivate them and smile and have a good attitude?
And, so listen and absorb and consider.
Exactly. So it's a fun exercise, but it also is quite serious because we make them the teams have to get up and give a professional 10-minute presentation on their experience. Mm-hmm. And I tell you what, you talk about some people tucking their tails when they have to get. And here's the funny thing, this, they just don't realize how darn tough it is to balance a bank's balance sheet. Mm-hmm. Oh, I forgot about funding, but I committed to all these loans. Right. But guess what? You need deposits.
Yes.
Or some kind of funds.
And you need to pay attention to the price of those deposits. And,
indeed.
There are lots of moving parts, which is one of the brilliant things about the sim. The interpersonal aspect of it and what you're doing there too, I love that.
Yeah.
So I want to pitch kind of go a little different direction. I talked about stewardship being an important mindset, but I want to speak to a different mindset for just a minute. For the students to get the most out of their experience, of course, generally, probably always, the bank is paying for the students to come, but what kind of mindset do they need to have about their experience so they can maximize their opportunity to build that better banker named me?
Yep, that's a great direction to go, and I appreciate that. So I think that folks like you and me who have spent a lot of time, me much more than you, I would assume, after 37 years of being on my feet in front of various audiences. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to walk into a room of 150 professionals. Now, it's easy to just entertain.
Right.
But educating and entertaining, that edutainment is much more difficult. And one of the reasons it's much more difficult is because inevitably there are probably a few people in the room, depending on the topic, there are probably a few people in the room who sort of do that and could probably teach the class if you gave them a week to prep for it.
Right.
Okay.
Or less than a week.
Or less than a week, exactly. Right. I mean, some of the questions that they'll throw out to these experts they're dynamite. I mean, there's just a lot of learning going on.
Right.
But across that distribution, of course, there are people in the room who are completely lost, and maybe understandably, they're not giving up, but you can see it in their eyes, that 1,000-yard stare.
Yes.
Sometimes when I'm lecturing, I don't know if there are two different looks to this. It's either I am so bored, please hurry up and move past this simple point, or I have no idea what you're talking about, so I'm just going to stare past you.
Or I'm worried I forgot to let the dog out before I left.
There you go.
Or is the stove on?
Yeah, the stove. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
So as the edutainer, the expert in the room, you can't for 2 seconds lose that edge of continuously trying to pull them in and speaking at the appropriate level, because you can lose, either side of either side of the room. So, it's one of the things that we talk about with the instructors are these people coming in like you are just, they're gems. They're so their willingness to give of their time is amazing. We don't pay them for what they're really worth, of course. And they come in and do a great job, but it's hard to find that level of rigor and coverage so that you don't swing too much either way. So I think that the message to the bankers, and when we kick it off on Sunday evening at our reception and dinner, I do say to them, boy, the second you look at your phone and start reading that email and you've lost 1 minute of what the person is saying, it's now you have to go twice as hard trying to catch up. And I said, we're going to have an HR expert here, a couple of them, talking about things that might not be entirely relevant to you now, but as you grow into supervisory responsibilities, you can get your hiney in a sling if you don't know a lot of this stuff.
Or you get your boss's hiney in a sling.
Absolutely. And so hang in there. Don't look at that email. Pay attention.
Stay engaged.
Stay engaged because it's a lot of time to be sitting in a classroom. And then, they're probably thinking about work because they sort of have to.
Right.
Thinking about missing a baseball game or a soccer game, whatever it happens to be.
Right.
Thinking about they might miss the first day of school for their 6th grade. I mean, all kinds of things, right? Life is full of all kinds of distractions. But when you're here, you're going to be a better banker if you're able to think, I may need some of this stuff in 3 years, not 3 weeks.
Yeah. That's good.
So
it makes me think of a logistical little nuance I hadn't noticed, though. You said all the instructors are gems. So I need to look at my name tag more carefully. I thought it had said Eric and then had speaker down at the bottom, but apparently they all say Jim. Jim. We're all named Jim.
See, I wasn't born in West Texas, so I don't talk funny like you. I'm saying Gem.
Gem. G-E-M. Oh, not G-Y-M either. Okay. All right. I'm glad we got to clarify that. So
I can throw in a y'all if you need me to.
Just to kind of for street cred. It's too late. We already know you're not from around here.
I am a Wyoming cowboy, though.
I saw that. Cowboy. Yes. Yep. I want to go one more direction before we wrap up. We've mainly been talking about the younger leaders, but the School of Banking is also putting on here for the 2nd year. Thank you for letting me participate this year and last year with the Bank Director Boot Camp. And so there's stewardship leadership looks different at the other end of the leadership continuum. We've got the brand new leaders and we've got the ones at the top of the house who are helping provide they are providing the oversight governance for the whole bank.
Yes.
I would encourage directors out there, if you haven't signed up already, if you have any interest in that boot camp, let one of us know. There's still time to sign up. It'll be really strong. I'll be talking about stewardship leadership and how it plays into governance. Talk, though, a little bit about stewardship for their leadership on the board.
You bet. Happy to. Thank you for that. I feel like I just got a nice plug on the program. So, the directors are fiduciaries. They have a responsibility to the shareholders, if you will, the stakeholders, and they are in charge of governance of the institution. Okay, and I think that whether you are a very seasoned director or a relatively new director, sometimes and this comes from talking to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bankers, leaders, director, board members like you, just if not thousands over the many years. I think sometimes directors, I really don't want to use the word lazy, but they just kind of get in a rut.
They may coast.
There's some coasting that goes on, and there might be one or two directors who are really gung-ho and do a lot of the talking. The chairman of the board is probably going to do a lot of talking, especially if he or she has a sizable ownership stake, then it's or if they're the CEO and the chairman, that kind of changes the dynamic as well. I'm not sure. I know what I think about that. I'm not sure what I'd say at this point. These directors, they have to fly at the appropriate level, and that appropriate level can be relatively high. By the way, I loved your series you did on basically what level do they fly. The borrow ditches was your analogy. Stay out of the borrow ditches. So in these 2 days that we'll meet with the directors, all of Monday and all of Tuesday, August, I think that's the 10th and the 11th. We will have, I think, about 12, 13 experts, you included, come in and address different aspects of what it means to be a board member, not just a board member, but a fiduciary and someone who asks the right questions.
Yes. Because
that, I think, can be one of the most difficult things about being a board member. Let's say you're an ag guy or gal, and you know banking 101, deposit gathering, lending, and capital requirements, those kinds of things. Boy, there is so much more to what a good director can do to help make sure the bank is efficient, help to make sure the bank is profitable for the right reasons and in the right ways, help to make sure that there are no compliance fiascos. If a bank fails, those directors are in trouble.
Yes.
Not sure all directors understand that. And banks do still fail, not many, but they can. And in fact, we just saw one down in Central Texas last year, a little bitty one down by, doesn't matter. It's difficult, I think, for many of them to know what that fly level is.
Yes.
You do not have to know how to run an ALCO meeting or understand the duration of a SBA back. Anyway, we could get really technical really quickly. But you need to understand the basic principles of interest rate risk management. So in conversations, you can say something like, why do we have an average duration of 6 across our investment portfolio? That doesn't seem like a wise choice. And sometimes I believe that there's a capture phenomenon we see in these directors where they feel captured by the chairman, or they feel captured by the fact that they're getting a little bit of some swag, so to speak, for being that director.
Right.
There's a whole lot more to it, and they are the bosses. We all understand agency theory, who the agent it is, and who the management. I mean, it can go poorly, and really good directors are amazingly helpful to help running a good bank.
And often you have good business people, good sharp people on boards who have not ever heard about these aspects of how their leadership looks different than how they lead in their day-to-day work.
Right.
And also one of the things that's really helpful about the boot camp is helping get them some exposure on some of the other technical areas of the bank that they'll never be experts in, but a general understanding helps them in their interface with management, and also helps them hold management accountable.
Yeah, we have, just as an example, a former longtime outstanding state DOB examiner, and now a bank president, Tanya Miller, now a bank president, and very, very well respected speaker, banker, leader, advocate. She comes in and does about 2.5 hours, maybe close to 3 hours, on how a director can really fully understand the performance and risk of the bank. She just turns on the light bulbs. She's so good at what she does.
That's good.
And it's huge, because I think a lot of directors, they might be handed some financials, of course, maybe even a UBPR, heaven forbid, and they're trying to plug through this and look at financials. But I mean, in an hour and a half, you can have just an amazing expert really help you basically say, like, here are the questions you ask. That's literally how she approaches this. Here's where you find the information. Here's the structure of it, what drives the denominator versus the numerator, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's not high math, but it's math. And then she says, here's questions you have to ask. You have to know the answers to these questions.
Right.
My goodness gracious, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. So that's why we call it a boot camp, because it's get the working knowledge. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, we're both wound up about this topic, this broader topic. We could spend a lot of time here. But anything you want to say before we start to land the plane?
Well, again, congratulations on the book. I hope everybody gets a chance to take a peek at it, because there are a lot of life lessons besides CFO-ish lessons, right, for sure. True. And wonderful being able to join you on your podcast, and good luck with all this stuff. And I'll see you in a few weeks.
Yes,
we'll
couple of weeks.
We'll be doing some good work. So,
we'll help build some better bankers. Thank you, Jeff.
You bet. My pleasure.
There's lots here for all of us as steward leaders, even if we're not bankers, to be thinking about. So, Jeff, thanks so much for taking time for today's conversation.
Thanks for listening to Steward Leaders. If this conversation was helpful, you can find more episodes and additional resources at stewardleaderspodcast.com. Leadership is temporary. Stewardship is about forever.